Alright, so in this video we're checking out the EMAX Tinyhawk 3 Plus HD Ready to Fly kit. So that's a mouthful, obviously based on the Tinyhawk 3 Ready to Fly kit that I reviewed, I don't remember, it's like maybe a year ago. That was analog. This is now HD 0, of course. Obviously the HD mean digital. So we have HD 0, not walk snail. I know some of you were hoping for walk snail Ready to Fly kit, but that is probably not going to be coming for a little while. I'll explain later on that one. I kind of knew the HD 0 version was coming when the EMAX launched their Transporter 2 HD goggles, which of course had an HD 0 receiver in there and screen, and of course these goggles are now making the appearance in this Ready to Fly kit. I guess the analog version came with the analog version of these Transporter goggles, and now they are also upgrading the transmitter. So previously the E8 transmitter in the Tinyhawk 3 Ready to Fly analog version was FreeSky. They're finally dumping FreeSky, which is a long time coming. Kind of been wondering when that was going to happen. This is Express LRS now. I believe it's running some version of version 3 firmware, not sure what. You can bind this with other version 3 receivers, Express LRS receivers. If you want to see a video on that, let me know in the comments below. I'm not sure how much interest there is on this particular transmitter. It's a good transmitter as a starter transmitter. Actually, that's actually better than the FreeSky version. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, if you want to see a video on how to use this with other quads with Express LRS receivers, let me know. But obviously, when you get this kit here as a Ready to Fly, it comes with all this stuff. You get the drone, of course. You get a battery. And you get a charger. So here's the rest of the stuff that comes in it. So you get the charger here. It's the same charger that was in the previous Ready to Fly kit. You get some tools and some spare screws and nuts and parts of stuff in case anything breaks. You get this little adapter for the transmitter, so you can mount the monitor from the goggles on the transmitter if you prefer to fly via monitor. Another hex wrench there and a USB-C cable. Additional spare parts here, you guys says spare propellers. This long cable here is going from the goggles to the video transmitter when you want to upgrade the firmware on the video transmitter. Now I did a video already on how to upgrade the firmware on the Transporter 2 goggles. I'm not sure if I think I might post that to my second channel. I'll link that down to the video description in case you want to see that, because you'll probably want to upgrade this firmware, all this firmware here at some point in the future. Out of the box it's fine, it works without any need to upgrade anything. Oh, and I forgot to mention, yeah, there's 6 stickers, and if you want to see the manual, it's online. You got to scan this QR code, get some propeller warnings and some other documentation. But yeah, like I said, everything is hooked up already out of the box. Everything should just work. I didn't have any binding or channel changing or anything like that. I just basically plugged in the drone, turned on the transmitter, turned on the goggles, and everything was just ready to go. So they are using this a slightly larger battery now. It's a 1S650. I think this is probably made by GNB. It's very similar looking. It's a PH 2.0 connector. I did fly it with some other GNB batteries here, 600 milliamp hour and a 720 milliamp hour. And the nice thing about EMAX is they're using these rubber bands here. So the width is restricted by the plastic, as you can see, but the depth is not. So you can use bigger batteries like this 720, which fits in the tray fine, and get more flight time. So on the stock battery, on average, you're going to get about 3 to 3.5 minutes of mixed flying. If you're aggressive, like 2.5 minutes. Cruising, up to 4 minutes. On a smaller, lighter 600, it's going to be a little bit less. I'm getting like 3 minutes. On the 720, it goes up to like 4.5 minutes on the max, just kind of cruising around. And if you're more aggressively flying, it's probably like 3.5 minutes. So you can use a wide variety of batteries because they're using not a tray, but they're using sort of this half tray and then this rubber band strap system that allows you to go to some bigger batteries. And you can see, again, so they're sticking to the PH 2.0 connector with these solid pins, of course. They haven't gone to any other connector yet. I was hoping to see the new GNB 830s probably going to happen in the next rate of flight kit. Probably the walk snail version is my guess, is what's going to happen. So of course, now this is HD0. The HD0 video transmitter is now here on the bottom. It's going to kind of tucked away there. It's, you know, in a good spot there. It's probably safe from a lot of crashes. They have a new canopy here for this camera, because it's obviously a different camera to mount that. So I think this top part's the same except for this, and you still have the adjustable camera angle. You can see the maximum is something like that, pretty high, like 45 or 44 degrees, and then the minimum is about like that. So adjustable camera angle, of course, and the rest of the electronics, I believe, the same as the analog version. I think you get 5 amp ESCs, and the motors are 08, 02, 15,000 kV, the same ones from before, and I think basically the same frames, pretty indestructible. I still have my old Tinyhawks from before with the same plastic, and I bought some spare frames, but never got to use them because the original frame never broke through probably hundreds of crashes. So it's a very solid frame. Now, this is a bit heavier than the previous version. So this one's coming in at 36.4 grams. Oh, it's about 36.5 grams. I believe the analog version was 31.2 grams, if I remember correctly. I'll put it up here on the screen if I can dig it up from my old video. So yeah, it's a significantly more weight with the same electronic setup in terms of the motor. Yeah, and that makes a difference. It's a little more than 5 grams, so you feel it in the flight. And also, the battery is a lot bigger too, bigger and heavier. So the overall takeoff weight is a lot heavier. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, you're gonna feel it when you're flying this around. You'll have to be when you're especially doing like yaws. You don't want to yaw too quickly, because for a quadcopter to yaw, it spins down 2 motors and spins up 2 motors to get the yaw to work, which means you're cutting down the overall power. So I've noticed that, especially on, because basically the motor is the same, but the weight's more. If you yaw too aggressively, your altitude drops pretty quickly. So something to be aware of. You can adjust for that by compensating when you yaw to increase your throttle. That does work, and so you have to sort of learn to fly this knowing that it is limited in the amount of power it has. So this one at this weight is not going to really be like an acro killing machine or anything like that. This is mainly for races, and probably spec races where people have this particular setup, the Tinyhawk 3 with the HD0 video transmitter, and you're probably going to be flying against other people with basically the same limitations that you have. If you put this up against someone, with a 17 gram Mo Beetle compared to this at 36 grams, that's like half the weight. They're probably going to do a lot better in the race than this one. So in the transmitter, it looks basically the same as the previous version in the analog version, but it does come with these stickers now. So you have this arming switch here, beginner, intermediate, and expert mode over here. So I think it's like angle, horizon, and acro mode. And then you have a beeper alarm on this switch here, and this is the turtle mode, flip over mode. This little rubber slot here is for that adapter, so you can mount the monitor up top here, so you can use that if you prefer to fly as a via monitor. And then there's a 1S 18650 lithium ion cell in here, and this one is 1800 milliamp hours. I think this is the same as before as well. And overall, I think that they've made some improvements in the gimbals, and this one is a little bit smoother and not as rough, and it feels more heavy. I don't have the other one to compare it to, but looks like this is going to be a nice transmitter to stick with if you don't want to, deal with all the hassles of firmware updates. This one does have version 3 firmware. I'm pretty sure you can bind it to other Express LRS receivers, but I don't know what the transmit power is on this one. I believe it's 100 milliwatts, and I'm not certain on that one, but just my guess. It is a low-cost system. 100 milliwatts is probably my guess. I'd be surprised if it's any more than that. And then, of course, you don't have the ability to adjust any settings because there's no screen. This is a very bare minimum radio. It gets you in the air. You can use it. And, of course, you can bind this to other Express LRS quads in the future. If you happen to buy them, it will work. It's just that you have certain limitations on this sort of budget beginner radio. Goggles work the same way. I did a whole video on this already. the screen comes out, of course, and then you can attach it via that 1/4-20 screw there to the transmitter. And then the screen, you can adjust the focal length by pulling this out to adjust that lens on the screen. And of course, the buttons all work the same as well. You got your channel and band buttons over here, on off switch over there, or this is the power button for on off, and then you have your menu button here for OK. And so it works the same as before. I did a whole video on this one already. I'll link that down in the video description as well. Okay, so I think it's going to cover for this one. Yeah, I was hoping to see a walk snail ready to fly version, but of course, I think the as I mentioned before, the limitation is in the receiver. So HDZero was able to partner with EMAX to create this receiver built into the monitor, and at a very low cost, at a budget price to make this sort of system possible. EMAX has not been able to work with Walksnail yet to get something similar built. Obviously, Walksnail has their standalone video receiver, the VRX, at which you can connect up to another screen with HDMI. So maybe EMAX could make a version of this monitor that is HDMI in, and then perhaps have Walksnail make a budget version of their VRX to combine with this monitor. This is a good setup here. It's very easy to see the screen. It's very clear. I have no problems focusing, and I like the fact you can pop the screen off and just hold it in your hand, and or fly it off of put it on the transmitter. You can fly off that as well if you don't like the goggles. So it gives you a lot of options. So yeah. Great that they're moving to digital finally with the HDZero version. Definitely looking forward to seeing a Walksnail version of this sometime in the future, maybe even an 03 version. That'd be kind of wild if they ever did that. But yeah, of course, this is geared towards their beginners and budget people, so probably not going to be seeing an 03 version anytime soon. Anyway, that'll cover for this video in terms of this Ready to Fly kit. This will be available as well as a plug and play, or as a bind and fly. You can just basically buy it as is, and you can, if you have a HDZero goggles or receiver already, you can connect it up to your video system, and of course it has built-in Express LRS. So if you have an Express LRS radio, you can buy the bind and fly version. I don't have the pricing for any of this stuff yet. They did not provide that to me before the embargo date, so check the link in the video description. Everyone asks me, why don't you tell us the price? Sometimes they don't tell us this information ahead of time. You'll just have to click on the link, unfortunately, if you want to know what the price is, because I don't know what it is at the time of the recording of this video. All right, it's going to cover it for this one. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, I would appreciate it if you give the video a thumbs up. That would be great. That'll do it for this video. Talk to you guys in the next one.